Well, friends, a few days ago we uploaded a video to the channel about the King's Indian defense. Well, it's true that you loved that video. I feel obligated to make one that's even much better. In this video, I'm not just going to show you the opening moves, but we're going to dive deep into it. I'll explain the plans, the strategies, and indeed how to understand the position much better than your opponents. Believe me, when you finish this video, you'll want to go play. And for sure, your results are going to be incredibly good. Well, as you all know, and if not, I'll do a brief review, the King's Indian defense is played against the Queen's pawn. We'll start with knight f6, and the good thing about this defense is that I don't care at all what my opponent does. The plans are extremely similar, and if we understand the strategies, we can play this against any response from the opponent. What's more, if our opponent doesn't understand what's happening, they'll likely suffer a lot, and we'll end up giving them checkmate. Normally the game continues with c4, although I just told you it doesn't matter how they play, because we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fianchetto our bishop, simple as that. Knight c3, bishop g7, e4. The first thing you must keep in mind, and this is very important, is that when they play e4, we'll play d6. This is vital to avoid. This advance to e5, which we covered in the previous video, and I explained why it was so bad to advance directly. Therefore, many variations exist here. In the other video, we saw this knight f3, which is the popular move, but what if they don't play it? What if they play, for example, this Samish variation with the pawn on f3? Well, you'll see that here we're going to see many different responses, but all with the same strategy. This game I've taken as an example illustrates very well what we need to think about. Logically, we're really, no matter what they do to us, gonna castle. And our next objective, what will it be? Well, it'll be to break either at e5 or at c5. In most cases, we're gonna break at e5, okay? When are we gonna break at ca5? When we clearly see that our opponent is gonna castle long. Even so, likewise, we can also play e5. In this game, where the white pieces played knight from g to e2, the black player directly played this e5. I'll leave the game in the description so that all of you who want to can analyze it after this video ends. The e5 break is key, okay? It's what we should do in most of our cases, and the sooner the better. Let me explain. Our idea is that now white can decide whether to take or advance. Primarily, almost always, they'll want to advance. Why? Because that way they'll have a space advantage. They don't do it yet. Instead, in this game, they first come to pin the knight. What plans for the white pieces can we start to see? Well, the first one would be, for example, by pinning this knight, they want to jump with the other little knight to d5, right? Putting a lot of pressure on the f6 square. That's clear, right? So that's why black, at this precise moment, played c6. Simple, right? Simply to prevent the knight's chump. Another type of plan, which is what happened in the game, was this queen to d2. What do they want to do to us? Well, pay attention. They want to come directly to exchange, let's say this dark squared bishop. You should know one thing. If our goal is to play 5-5 and 4-4, you must know this for sure. Our goal in the King's Indian is the following. When the position closes, we're going to break with 5-5. It's our break point. And once we break with f5, we'll often even follow up with f4 and launch a direct attack on the white king. Mind you, this bishop is not our good bishop. No, no, no. Our good bishop is the light squared one. Because when the pawns are already on dark squares to go attack the castled king, even this bishop is often sacrificed for the h3 pawn, thus finishing a winning attack. And not only that, but look, this bishop stays locked in by its own pawn chain. Therefore, first, what you should know is that we don't care that much if they exchange these bishops, especially because white's dark squared bishop is their good bishop. So the first thing you should keep in mind and burn into your memory for when you play this type of structure. This King's Indian structure doesn't only happen in the King's Indian, okay? It also occurs in the Ruy Lopez and in several openings. The important thing is the structure. Well, white's good bishop is this one, and black's good bishop is this one. Very important. If they trade these two bishops, should we? No. If they trade this one for that one, should we? Yes. That's clear. Here, black played knight b7, d5, and pay attention to this h6. Let's see, chess teacher, have you lost your mind? Well, yes. You already know that I always lose my mind. But what's happening here? Are we giving away the pawn? If what we want is to incite them to come exchange the bishop, maybe it's not necessary to give away a pawn. Could you tell me why that pawn right now is an inedible pawn? You can stop the video if you want, okay? Because I'm going to say it now. The idea is that that pawn can't be eaten. In the game, bishop e3 occurred, which is correct. But what happens if they eat this pawn? Well, we would have a tactical resource, taking advantage of the fact that the king is still in the center and has gaps. And the tactical resource would be knight takes e4, sacrificing the knight. I don't care what you eat with, whether with a pawn or a knight, because my next move is going to be this. See it? Queen h4, check. And I eat the bishop. And here, many of you will be telling me, well, chess teacher, but here the only thing I'm seeing is that, yes, you've eaten a bishop and a pawn, but your opponent has also eaten a pawn and a knight, so you're completely equal in material. Right, but what have we achieved? Exchanging their good bishop. See? Plus, we have the bishop pair. Well, this would be extremely good for us. And black is very interested in this kind of exchange. But of course, it's clear that white isn't interested in this kind of exchange. That's why at this very specific point in the game, where black plays h6, white doesn't want to exchange, but rather wants to pull back and retreat their bishop before it's too late. I hope you're following along with this logic, right? This is of vital importance for your understanding, okay? This has been a tactical resource. By the way, before I forget, let me tell you something super important. We've added new things to the Academy, just as you hear. Many of you have joined and are already in, okay? I'll be getting in touch with you, but for those who haven't joined yet and want to raise your chess level, for all those who want to join for a quarter, that is 3 months, you can join for a month, you can join for 3 months, you can join for a year, you can join for as long as you want in the Academy, okay? And you can leave whenever you want, right? But all those who joined for at least 3 months, right? As soon as they join and get the quarterly pack, let's say, I'm going to give them a gift, okay? I'll let them choose from several gifts and everyone, well, can choose what they want, okay? So if you want, you can do that. But all those who commit for a year, you'll see, okay? This is very important. For all those who commit for a year, I really want you to improve your chess level. Therefore, what I'm gonna do is, personally, I'm gonna get in touch with you. That sounds great, doesn't it? If you join the Academy at this very moment and commit for a year, I'll personally reach out to you directly and work closely with you to help you put together a personalized study plan for you. That is, we'll look at your goals, your level, we'll see what you like to play, we'll look at everything. And from there, I'll personally help you by telling you what you should do or what I'd advise you to do and play and everything you want. Alright? It's gonna take a lot of work, I'm aware. Many of you watch me, but I commit, and urgently too. As soon as you join by committing for a year, boom, you'll have my immediate response. Alright? I'm gonna leave the Academy, right down here in the description. So if I were you, if you want to improve, really, I'm telling you, I recommend it 100%. Alright? Let's go. The idea is that there's a very important detail here, okay, in these kinds of positions, and it's the C file. What's up with the cuff file, chess teacher? Well, it's a file that's potentially going to open up. See? Whether this pawn were on c6 or not, this file's really going to open up. Why? Because white's plan, what is it? Look where the pawn chain is pointed. It's to attack on the queen's side. And therefore, either they open it up or we do. Therefore, it's going to be vital to see who will be able to keep this file in their possession, let's say, right? So here, the black pieces decide to capture the d5 point, with the idea that now, logically, white will recapture with the c pawn, because otherwise they'd be completely breaking their pawn chain, and that wouldn't be right at all. And so here, the black pieces already has something clear. I doubt white will castle queenside. Why? Because then they'd be placing their king on the open file. And this, forgive me, but to me it seems extremely dangerous. I'm going to throw a 6 and b5 at you. Maybe the bishop will come out here or not, and the rook will be placed here, and this will be extremely dangerous for the white pieces. Therefore, I know, or almost know, that you're going to castle kingside. Besides, your pawn shield here is already preparing to play. For example, bishop e2, castle, this bishop that will be placed on f2, keeping its distance over the king side and especially pressing the queen side, which is where the white pieces should attack. Therefore, here we've practically reached the conclusion that white is going to castle kingside. Well, I wonder if our primary strategic objective in these specific kinds of pawn structures is the pawn break toward the f5 square, so why don't I play knight e8 right here, and then look to initiate the push of this f5 pawn? This looks very good in my head. Well, this would be a little bit dangerous. You should know that in the King's Indian, we have a weakness, a fairly strong weakness, and it's this d6 point, right? First, that's also why this dark squared bishop is so important, because it's in charge of not only defending the castle, but starting to apply pressure. A direct move that occurs to me to start applying pressure is this one right here. It doesn't just pressure d6, but with the rook, it can also come directly to attack this c7 point. And watch out, because it can be dangerous, right? So before playing knight e8, I'd like to play a6. Yes or no? A flexible move. I'm in no hurry for the moment. You still even have to castle. I have an advantage there. Therefore, I'm going to defend my weak point. Why would I let you play an unnecessary counterplay, right? While with a simple a6, I can leave everything all defended. And what's more, if you dare to castle queenside, I'll throw b5, b4 at you, and watch out that I don't checkmate you on the queen side, since I haven't even started my attack on the king side yet, right? And that's why here, the white player tries to maneuver with his pieces, first with the knight, for what? To develop the bishop and castle kingside? And who knows if this knight can come into play, either through the d file or the b file. Alright, so now what? Well, now I'll play b5, why not? I can gain space on the queen side. No one's stopping me, right? And therefore, all of my squares are well controlled. My attack will come from the king side, yes. But now the white piece's expansion on the queen side won't be so easy. Or at least it doesn't seem so easy to me. Besides, this knight will come through here, behind my pawns, supporting a possible advance, and especially freeing up the diagonal for our light squared bishop. Bishop e2. What does white want to do? We should know by now, right? Castle on the next move. I'm going to keep improving my pieces and also preparing this bishop to point directly at the king. Remember one thing, okay? They're constantly pressuring the h6 pawn. As soon as the king castles, what are they threatening? The h6 pawn? Why? Because at this moment they can never capture it. Do you remember why not? Knight takes e4, queen h4 check. Sorry, queen h4 check, and when the king moves or the pawn advances, we would simply capture the bishop. But what happens now when the king castles? Which is what happened in the game. That we must protect our pawn. And how are we going to do it? Well, in the game, this king h7 occurred. Easy, right? The king and the bishop are in charge of defending this pawn. And besides, this is a slightly prophylactic move. Normally, in our attack, that is, in the King's Indian attack, the G file will open and we'll bring in the rook to put pressure on the king. Normally, ow. Well, with this f5, if they capture, it's very easy. We'll always capture at the pawn and we'll have the file open. And if they don't capture, we'll push with f4 and then we'll launch our g pawn and either they capture or we capture or we'll even advance. Therefore, it's clear to us that the king not only defends, but has also positioned himself to help us attack. Are you understanding this? It's been wonderful, right? You can watch this video as many times as you need. Look at what a beautiful move white makes. b4. This move is very interesting, and I'll explain why. They're fixing a weakness on a 6, right? Simple, right? Now this pawn cannot be advanced, because this is completely fixed. Besides, and logically, this pawn here is being threatened by both bishop and knight, so advancing right now is out of the question. And this pawn remains backward. If the white pawn were on a 3, it wouldn't be such a problem. But since there's a gap, for example, the rook could attack this weakness head on. Also, even the queen, that is, this pawn is weak and can also be attacked head on. Therefore, we say it's a weakness that's relatively easy to attack. As you can see, we have attack plans, but white also has their weapons. And the good thing white has is that they have a great space advantage. Our pawn, simply the one we have furthest up, has advanced 2 squares, while the white one, look closely, has advanced 3 squares. Therefore, white has a space advantage. General strategy question: who benefits from trading pieces? Well, normally, almost always, and you can burn this into your brain, trading pieces benefits the side with less space. So, who has less space? Black. Who benefits from trading pieces? Black does. Does that make sense? Simple, right? Why? It's very easy. Imagine you have a very, 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 very small house, and 17 people live there. Man, I think we'd be more comfortable if there were only 3 of us, wouldn't we? Well, it's exactly the same thing in chess. Black is already starting to plan their attack. And what is their attack? 5. What do they have to do to play 5? Move a knight. So let's say, for example, knight h5. I like it much more than, say, knight e8, because from h5, it can return or even penetrate enemy territory. And if they want, they can give us the dark squared bishop, which is their good bishop. Remember that? Many of you will say, hey, chess teacher, but can't they play g4 here and kick out the knight? Well, no, because then look at the hole they're creating for us here. This knight can never, ever, ever be kicked out by a pawn. And practically, if they want to kick it out, they'll have to give up their dark squared bishop. And that doesn't benefit the white pieces at all. So this knight isn't easy to kick out for now. h4, my question is, would you capture that pawn? Now, mistake, because after pawn takes pawn, and knight takes, rook takes would follow. And look, this weakness is going to start being very, very hard to defend. As hard as, for example, the knight moves, the other rook comes, the bishop from a distance, even the queen can join in. And when you double or triple up on the file, I simply advance the pawn, and you can't take because I'll take your rook, right? So, before I choke, I'm going to put this back how it was. Simply put, when white plays this a4, it's not a good idea at all to capture this pawn. You see it, right? Because then we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Especially all of you I've seen. I've seen it several times that when there's a break, you just take for the sake of taking. You think it's just a pawn trade. I take a pawn, you take a pawn, but no. You have to look a little bit further ahead, okay? Here, black plays this. Knight c4, very good move. Why? Because right at this very moment, we are putting the white pieces into a truly impressive and difficult predicament. Let me take a moment to explain exactly what is happening on the board. We are simultaneously attacking the white queen as well as the dark squared bishop. You know what, right? The queen, obviously, they won't lose, but they don't want to lose the dark squared bishop under any circumstances. So if they move the queen, I take the bishop. So what should they do? Move the queen and let it be taken, or give up their other light squared bishop? Look, there isn't a single doubt here. You can check it with your friends, the machines, the analysis engines. Why? Because at this moment, the only move that maintains equality is giving up the light squared bishop. If they decide, for example, to move the queen and trade here, this would already be a -2 advantage for black. And why is that? Because black has won a strategic battle. Bishop pair, and especially the dark square bishop, which is white's good bishop, doesn't exist. That's why, no matter what, you must trade with bishop takes e4. Pawn takes c4, and now, careful, we're left with a very weak pawn here. That pawn will probably be recaptured. But my question is, can white waste time now trying to attack this pawn, for example with queen e2, or for example with queen a2, directly to come and capture this pawn? This would be a mistake, fans. They wouldn't be evaluating the position correctly. Our attack is imminent, and we already have everything ready to launch this f5, which is going to be completely lethal. If white pieces now focus on capturing this pawn, f5, and who knows if f4, and now our break on the g pawn will be completely lethal. We're going to open up, all our pieces come in, we'll place the rook on the g file, and they'll be left with no options to attack. Therefore, would it be a good idea to try to come, let's set this up right, to attack this pawn here? No, not all. What do they have to do? Try to come to the defense. That's the right thing. What are you going to find when you play these types of structures or when you play the King's Indian? That your opponent won't know the plans. This is what's going to happen to most of you. And unlike when we just study an opening by theoretical moves, where when they don't play what we've studied in the video, you don't know what to do because you get lost, because that's what you tell me in the comments. In this type of strategy, when you're studying in depth how to play the opening, not just the theoretical moves, but how we should play, then if they don't do what they should do, they're gonna be lost, okay? Therefore, here we understand what needs to be done. White is playing perfectly for now. They're trying to defend themselves wonderfully. That said, our plan is very easy, right? Let's go with f5, very simple. My plan, play f4 and launch the g pawn. Should they allow this? No, and they must make the ugly move pawn takes pawn. It's true, it's not a very pleasant move to make, because they leave this pawn alone at the arrowhead on d5, completely alone. Easy to capture, for example, with a knight f6. In the future, this bishop could also enter, and therefore our attack will go very well. Question, how would you capture this pawn? With the pawn, with the rook, or with the bishop? There's only one correct option. Obviously, with the pawn. Who said with the pawn? Of course not. The pawn, of course. Why? Because they're opening up the G file for me directly and for free. And the G file, if you've been paying attention, is where our attack will come from. And now I'm going to play f5 and fix the weakness on g3. The queen will come in, the rook will come in, even the bishop and the knight. And this, logically, is going to be unstoppable. But of course, white isn't going to make it easy. They find a very strong resource. If you want to play this f4, well, I'll play it myself and you can't advance anymore. Correct, but our advantage is so powerful right now, not for the engines, okay? They defend everything, but it is for a human being. Why? Because it's very easy to attack with the black pieces and very hard to defend with the white pieces when we can attack wherever we want. And honestly, we're going to have the battle won. Let me show you how the black player did. Bishop d7. This bishop develops covering both flanks here, the king side and the queen side. Rook b1 to try and push their pawn attack. Rook e8. We'll have time to attack the g point later, you'll see. Now what's threatened? Well, if you take here, my central pawn mass will be huge. If not, I can even advance. And precisely, look what white does. King h1 for what? So it's not on the g file. Rook b8, rook f3, and now, yes indeed, first I place the knight on f6, attacking this point, although I can't capture it yet. As soon as I manage to deflect this knight, and even the queen of course, this pawn will fall. And look how the black player does it. He just moved the knight away, and since white protects the entry of this knight through here, the black player returns with the knight. This is very Nimzovich style, provoking the opponent a bit to advance their pawns. The knight can go back, but the pawn can't, right? And so the gaps are left around here and force the white pieces to try and defend with everything they have. Look how they're squeezing. e4, the rook is threatened, now the queen enters. Who would you rather be? Tell me the truth, the white pieces or the black pieces? It's clear to see, right? Although white might still be able to defend a bit, it's quite hard to always find the right moves to defend, isn't it? Bishop h2, covering the knight's entry. Rook g8. Now let's really turn up the heat. Queen d1. I'll go through this a bit faster. Rook b7, with what idea? Well, the idea is very simple, to pressure here with both rooks. It's that simple, and this pawn is going to be completely lost. Look closely. How do you defend that pawn? It can't advance because we also have the bishop, and there's no way to defend it properly. Many of you will wonder, what if I come this way? Very simple, I take this one. So here, there's really no way to defend that pawn. The game continued as follows, okay? First, the queen is kicked out. The queen goes back because there's no rush. We have the advantage. And now when the pawn advances, well, we simply capture here and they capture us. They capture here and this pawn is technically won. We're not going to recapture it immediately, although we could. However, the black pieces prefer to play knight f6 first. For what? And this is lethal. Look at how the pieces coordinate. I attack this point and I attack this point. The knight defends both of them. Therefore, the knight can't be doing two things at once. First, I deflect the knight. If you take here, I take here. So white didn't want to capture. They played queen g2. But now it simply tells me, well, if you don't want to take the bishop, better for me. I keep the bishop pair, I keep my good bishop, and on top of that, with an extra pawn, right? Look at how white tries to defend with everything, but black maintains the pressure. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes even though you have two pieces. Defending this point with a bishop is enough because you won't give up the queen, obviously. So here, no matter how much they triple up, it's as simple as returning with the queen to the attack, and you have no pawns to kick it out. Rook takes knight. Here, it's true, we're giving up two pieces for a rook, see? But black simply evaluates, and they evaluate this after thinking for a while. Don't think now like, oh, I wasn't able to calculate this. Well, don't worry, they evaluate that they reach a completely won endgame, and they enter this endgame that I'm going to show you how they win in a super beautiful way. First, they penetrate with the rook on the 7th. They have two rooks in exchange for two pieces, but they also have two pawns, so it's a material advantage. This pawn advances, the rook penetrates through here, the pawn advances. Simply, really, that pawn is going to be lost no matter what, okay? It does absolutely nothing. Why do they give it up? To be able to open lines. That pawn also does absolutely nothing. They give it up, but, well, at least now it's true that the white pieces can recover this pawn here, attacking the bishop, right? Black simply continues like this. Bishop 8, they don't want to leave it. The knight tries to come back a bit to defend its partner, which is being attacked at all times. But look at this, a passed pawn that's worth gold, right? A rook comes to defend, the bishop improves. You know that when a bishop is defended by a pawn, it's unbreakable. And look at this, huh? You attack my rook, I pin your knight, and here they're going to get into serious trouble. They're going to have to resign because, look, the two knights come to defend each other, and that's always a bad sign. I attack this knight, which can't be recaptured because it's pinned. Right now, then, what do you have to do? Defend logically this knight that isn't defended. How? For example, by blocking the rook's pin. Now, I can't capture here because you capture here, but simply look at what I do to you. Rook c2. And you can resign. Why? I attack this knight with two rooks, and how are you going to defend it? You can't, right? The idea is that the only way to come and defend it is with the bishop, but if the bishop moves out of the pin, I take the other one. See? Because now this knight isn't defending. So look what a work of art, and how the black player has maneuvered to try to win this game. Two tips. Watch this video as many times as you need, and above all, my main advice is to try and start training with us at the Academy. I'll be teaching classes myself, along with my colleague, Fide Master Flavia. You're gonna love him. You get two weekly classes that you can watch as often as you need, plus a ton of other things, because you'll have paid access to ChessMind, the best platform for studying, and also, especially if you join quarterly or annually, you'll get gifts like I mentioned at the start of the video. So I hope you loved it. I'll see you inside the academy, and we'll see each other tomorrow, of course, in the next video, friends. Bye.